Welcome to another episode of Mexican in the Kitchen. Today we're going to do a recipe that I find quite simple. It might take a while because you have to prepare your tomatoes, your onion, make a nice sauce, but once you have that you can basically use it for anything. For this I would usually use a comal, which is a really flat pan we use in Mexico. We always have it on the stove and we use it for warming up tortillas, for doing this kind of things with chilies, tomatoes, garlic, onion, whatever. It's very similar, let's say, to a cast iron that you can just like warm up and use it for any purpose you want. It's always there. It doesn't take a really high maintenance. So in this case I'm just going to use a simple pan. So I have this pan here on a medium fire, so it's a 3 or 4 out of 6. We're going to use 1 medium-sized onion, 4 garlic cloves, and those we're going to roast a bit. We want to start to see that change of color, but we don't want to completely burn them. So we'll just move them around, wait until they start getting this brown, dark, black color, and before they burn we're going to take them out. With the tomatoes, what we want to do is to maybe burn the skin a bit. This process is very common for making sauces. There's some recipes that will use that a bit charged skin. There's recipes that will remove it, like in this case, but this will help us to remove some of the acidity of the tomato, and this will give also a really nice taste to our sauce. So basically this is the longest process. We'll just wait for the tomatoes to start getting roast, charred, and just keep an eye on them. You will see things start to move around. You have to roll the tomatoes constantly. You have to take care not to burn everything else, but you will get to that point. As I was removing stuff from the pan, I was putting it into this plate, and what I did was wait maybe 5-10 minutes for everything to cool down a bit so I can handle them. And what we're going to do now is to remove as much of the skin as we can. You don't have to remove everything, but try to remove as much of this charred skin as you can. You will notice that tomatoes become really soft, so when you take the skin sometimes you will take chunks of the tomato. That's why I help myself a bit with the fork. It's gonna be really easy. Just take as much as you can, and don't worry if you take too much or if there's some pieces that stay there. It doesn't change the flavor so much if you let 1 or 2 pieces go, but we want to try to remove as much as we can. Now I have this pan here, it's also medium fire. I'm putting my pork here. I'm using these very lean steaks, very thin, so they will cook quite fast. I'm just adding a bit of oil. I have a few of these, but basically you can use any protein you want. We just want to cook it first. So if you have chicken, maybe you want to boil it, or you want to have this kind of fajita cut that you just put on the pan, make sure they're ready. If you're using pork chunks or beef chunks, you might need to cook it for a bit longer. I'm just using salt, nothing else. So whatever protein you're using for this, just make sure it's ready. These ones will be quite fast. I just put them on both sides with some salt and that's it. Once our protein is ready and we can put it into a plate on the side, then we're going to do our sauce. For this sauce we're going to start as we have started some other sauces we've made. You start with the tomatoes first on the bottom. This is because they are the ingredient that has the most water, so we want that to blend first, so then we have some extra liquid for everything to blend nicely. And I'm putting everything I had on my plate, the onion, the garlic, some of that juice that fell on the plate when I was trying to remove the skin. I found this on the store, which is not uncommon to find. It's something you would buy in Mexico. It's basically chipotle chilies. If you find this, you can use it if you like more spicy things. If not, it's very common that on K-group stores you find this chipotle sauce. It's basically the same, but it's only the sauce without the chilies. So you can use the sauce to give more flavor if you don't like spice that much. In this case, I really like spicy food, so I'm using 3 or 4 actual chipotles. And I'm also trying to add some of that sauce, some of the onions that come with it that give it a bit of this extra flavor. This is important because Chilies are important in Mexican food, not just because of the spice, but because of the flavor. I think flavor is the main part, and with chipotles the main thing is they keep so much flavor, especially if you make a sauce where it will boil for a while. You will notice a lot of flavors coming and makes it really nice. I'm using about 1/4 of a liter of chicken broth I had on the side. You can use one of these chicken broth cubes that you just dissolve in water, or if you've cooked chicken recently, you can use that. If you're a vegetarian, you can of course use some vegetarian cube to give flavor. Just dissolve it in some water. And then I'm adding some peanuts. I'm using about 100 grams. If you would like a thicker sauce, of course use more. You just have to taste and see how you like it. For seasoning, I only used some salt. I didn't use anything else. You will notice that there's a lot of flavors that we're using here, so only some salt is more than enough. Once we're ready, we're going to close our blender, put it into a high power. Basically, I blended these for a couple minutes, because first you will notice that there's a lot of chunks. You will see a lot of pieces that are coming and coming, but we want to make these as creamy as possible, so the more or the longer you blend the mix, the more creamy and the more even of a sauce that you will get, and that's exactly what we want with this. Once we have blended it, we want to check and taste if it's correct. Well, what I like to do is to check if the texture is good. If you find the mix too runny, maybe you can add some more peanuts, make it a bit thicker. If you find the mix to be a bit too thick, you can add a bit more chicken broth. This is basically where personal choice kind of kicks in, and it depends on how you like your sauces. For me, this was perfect. You can check if it needs some more salt or something. So just decide what kind of sauce you like and just go with whatever you prefer. Once we're ready with the sauce, I have a pan. It's already warming up a bit, so if it's warm it will jump and make a mess, so try to pour everything quite fast. All I want is to have my sauce here. I will let it boil for maybe 10 minutes. It's already quite nicely cooked, but giving it this boiling time will make those chipotle flavors really pop out, and it will make it a bit more thick. It will make it kind of come together. You will notice the texture changing a bit, and we really need to boil it for a while to get this like seasoning, all these flavors to mix nicely. Once our sauce has been boiling for a while, I'm just going to add some of the meat. I'll just put it in there. If you're using chicken, vegetables, pork, beef, whatever, here's where you throw it in and you just let it boil for another 5-10 minutes, and that's basically it. After it has boiled for a while, then we are ready to serve, and there's nothing else to do. Now it's ready to serve, and you can see it has a beautiful color, beautiful texture. The flavors are really nice. I like to serve this with some rice. It's not uncommon to serve it in Mexico with some rice and some beans on the side. You can basically use this however you want, but you will notice the flavors are there. It's a very rich in texture, in flavors. It's a lovely sauce. This is how I make encacahuatado, and this time I made it with some pork, and it's a very lean cut. There's not much fat. It was very quick to cook, but basically you can use it for anything. Back in Mexico, it's very common. You go to the market, they have these big pots. This is a very traditional sauce that you will find there, along with some others. It's very common that they have some chicken, some pork, some beef, maybe they might have some potato patties, or some patties they make with some vegetables kind of thing. And you basically can just go sit there and you point like, oh, I want chicken with this sauce or pork with this sauce. So you can do the same with anything. You can use it maybe to make some kind of vegetarian thing. Just use some vegetable broth and some vegetables. It works perfectly. It's very nice, very simple. If you don't want it to be so spicy, just use some other chipotle, just like the sauce. Instead of chilies, you want it more spicy. You can also add some other kind of chili. You can use some habanero or maybe some naga. It will change a bit the flavor, but this is a kind of sauce that you can play with, do whatever you want. If you want it more thick, use more peanuts. Just try it at home. Hope you like the video. Press like, subscribe, activate the bell, all those things, and see you in the next one.